Today, I'm going to show you part 1 of our traveling potion ingredient case. The things we'll need for our part 1 of creating our potion box are going to be the items that actually make up the box. So we will need one container or box. So this is the wood trunk from the Ashland Spring Collection at Michael's, and I believe it's part of the Lily Pond grouping. We're going to use some of the heavy-duty Gorilla Glue construction adhesive. I have cut a stencil out of some vinyl on my Cricut. We're going to use this adhesive-backed velvet, as well as a rotary cutter to cut it. We're going to use some black acrylic paint and a sponge brush, and I have a few clippies here. On the inside, we're going to use some wood boxes, and we'll get into that when we get over there. Let's get started. Okay, so this trunk, like I said, is at Michael's, and I have actually picked up a couple versions of this trunk. I find them super useful. I use them as display pieces when I am selling at shows, things like that. So they have come out with this multiple years in a row. It's usually almost always in their spring collection. I have no idea if they'll come back out with it next year, but I will say they are still at Michael's stores right now, at least at the time of filming this video, and they were starting to go on sale, so it's definitely a good time to pick it up. And if you don't use this box, you could use any little box, but I just loved that this one kind of looked like a briefcase, and it really fit everything we're doing really nicely. So, as I said, this is part of the spring collection, and this was originally $49.99. I'm pretty positive I got this for half off, or at least 40% off with my coupon, which made it much more affordable. So we're going to go ahead and cut that off. I will say that this year's version is much lighter than in past years. Past years, it's been a little bit more of a medium-toned wood instead of such a light-colored one, but I like all of them, so that doesn't bother me. So we're going to go ahead and open this up. Now in here, I have some of the boxes and things that I have chose to go in here because they fit so nicely. So basically, I went into Michael's and I grabbed one of the cases and I went down the wood aisle and just started testing different boxes on the inside. So the one that worked the best was this box here, and it's a lidded box, and I'll try to put a link to it in the description. But it's this cap top box, and it's 3.75 inches by 3.75 inches by 9 inches. So the inside of this box is 9 inches perfectly, and this one fits really, really well because we're able to use it down below, as you can see here. And then the lid is actually able to go up top in the top part of the box, so it can create some compartments up here. So I love that. I think that's really cool, and it kind of gives us some good compartmenting for the actual inside of the box. We're going to use some of this leather cording to kind of hold some things up top, so we'll get to that a little later. So I have two more boxes in here. So I have this little box that has a glass front on it, and you can see I already have a label in here because I was testing it out. So this one, again, I picked up at, I believe this one was at Michael's, and it's just a little box. And then this one I got at Hobby Lobby, and it has this little magnetic lid. So there's like a little magnet right here so that the flap is able to go up and down. And this is the smallest size of this. Again, I'll try to put a link to it in the description, but I did get that one at Hobby Lobby. So before we actually affix these different items into the box, we're going to actually put the stencil on the top, so then that way that can be up and drying while we're starting to glue in all of the different elements. Alright, so we're going to start with the top of our box, and I want to make sure that when it is standing up that the logo is the right way. So we're going to flip it around, and again, I have cut my design out of just some leftover vinyl, and we're going to use that as a stencil, essentially, to put our logo on the top of our box. So I'm going to peel this. Okay, now that I have the backing peeled off, I'm just going to flip this over so I can position it on my case here. think I have that pretty straight. So I'm just going to do a light rub. And then I'm going to peel my transfer tape off. Okay, perfect. And then I'm just going to do a quick roll right here. Okay, so now that I have this on here, I'm going to go ahead and get my black paint ready. Alright, so I've got a little glass dish here, and I'm going to put some of my black acrylic paint in here. And I'm going to try at first to just kind of dab it on. I don't want it to bleed. It shouldn't because it's stuck down, but you never know. Plus, I feel like a little bit more of a rustic take on the paint is going to look more authentic potion box anyway. Now, I considered roughing up this box and making it darker and all that, but I actually don't hate the natural look on this one. But by all means, if you decide to make one, do whatever works for you. You could paint the whole box, you could just dress it up, whatever feels right to you. And you could put any logo you want on here, or the same logo, or no logo. You could decide to just do a design, any of that. When we did our broom maintenance kit, we used a similar technique where I cut out a design on my Cricut. I used rub and buff. You could totally do that here too if you wanted to make it silver gold. They have a black rub and buff as well, but I thought I would show you with paint this time since I did the rub and buff last time, just so you guys can see different options. Alright, so now that I have this on, I'm going to let it dry just a tiny bit, and then we'll peel this off. Okay, a little bit of time has passed. It's not completely dry, but it's close. So I'm going to peel my stencil off. Alright, now that everything is picked off and weeded, we are left with our C&CC Apothecary Potions, Tonics, Elixirs, and Tinctures logo. Now that the top of our box is done, we're going to start to glue together and fabricate the inside of our box. The next thing we're going to do is take our adhesive-backed velvet and cut some pieces. So to do this, all I used was my cutting board and my rotary tool, and all I did was just measure the inside of this box, which coincidentally, this one is 3 1/4 by 8 1/2. on the inside for all 4 pieces of this. And then I also have a larger piece here we're going to roll on the bottom of this section. I'm going to leave the area next to the upper compartments up here just plain wood. So I wanted to get these cut first so that we can actually line the inside of these boxes before we use the adhesive to stick them down into the box. So basically with these, it has the nice adhesive back on it, and we just peel that off, kind of like we do our sticker paper for our labels. And when I do something like this, I like to just peel a little bit and kind of flip it up so that I can line the edge up on the inside of the box before I try to smooth everything down. And then once you get it started, then you can kind of slowly peel the backing away as you smooth down. Which is then going to make sure you have a nice, smooth, even application on the inside of our box. And then that gives us a nicely lined section to add a little bit of dimension. And also it's going to be nice for the items we place in here, especially the glass bottles. It's going to give them a little bit of cushion. So I'm going to add the adhesive to the rest of these 3 boxes, and then we'll come back and do the bottom of this. All right, I have all of these covered. So we're now going to do this area here. So I measured from the edge of the box to the edge of where these 2 will be in here so that I can cover this, and then that way it'll go just a smidge under this box. So it looks like the whole bottom is done, but we're going to have better adhesion on the wood to the wood versus wood to the velvet. Now this one, this little box that goes in here, we'll still have that sticking to the velvet, but it'll be fine. So for this one, again, I just measured it and then measured over. So we're going to take the backing paper, and I folded the top down so that I can start to stick this in the corner. And actually for this one, it might be easier to just pre-peel the whole back. Now, this is made to be like a shelf liner, so you can remove it a little bit while you're working it, and then it'll kind of get more of a permanent fix once it's in there for a while. Okay, so once we get the edge down really well, then we can start to smooth it to make sure we don't have any weird air bubbles in there. And there we go. We have the bottom covered the way we want, so that when we have our 2 little boxes over here off to the edge, it'll look like the whole bottom is covered, so it kind of gives some continuity to it. And then again, this one is going to be sitting on top of the velvet, but we're also going to glue it to the sidewall, so it's not going to matter so much if it doesn't stick great to the velvet. And this one's going to be just kind of floating. We're not going to actually glue him in. So now that we have all of the velvet done that we're going to do, we're going to start gluing. Okay, so again, for this part, we're going to be using the Gorilla Construction Adhesive. You do not need to wear gloves. However, I don't want to get it on my nails and not be able to get it off, so I'm wearing gloves. So it comes with a removable little nozzle, so we're going to attach that on here. Now this cures in 24 hours, but it sticks almost instantly. Okay, it doesn't have to be pretty. This one is taking a lot more time to squeeze out than the last tube I had of this, but it is what it is. So basically we're just going to put it in And I am making sure that it is all the way against the edge, and I am pushing down all the way. Now, for this one, I'm going to use one of these little clips, and then I'm going to glue the second one on here. And again, about 30 to 90 seconds of pressure is all you need for it to pretty well stay put. Okay, so we have those two in. So now I'm going to, one, make sure all the stickers are off the back of this one. All right, so for the back side of this one, I'm just going to do a nice zigzag pattern of our glue. And then on our back wall here, I'm going to add a little bit more glue. And the same thing for the top. Okay. And then I'm going to carefully open this up, and we're going to stick it into our box and give good pressure. Okay, then we're going to let these sit a little bit. So while these sit, we're going to glue in the top part up here. So with this, we're going to basically do the same thing. And we're going to place it in our box. Okay, so everything is glued in now. I'm going to let this sit for a little while, and then we're going to do one more detail to the inside of this before we actually start to create the box. Okay, well apparently my battery died in the middle of this. So the next thing I want to do is add a leather strap that goes across all of this, and not in a crazy tight fashion because I want to be able to slip the items in there. And I could have done something with a fastener, but quite frankly, I just didn't want to have to deal with the actual fastener part of it and all that. It's easy enough to do, but I think a strap across the front will be more than sufficient. So I took one of these fancy brass furniture tacks and pushed it in with some of this leather cording that I got off of one of the leather remnant bags at, I don't know if it was Michael's or Hobby Lobby, but it was at one of the two. And then I'm going to string this across. And again, I don't want it crazy tight, but tight enough that the items that are in here won't just flop down below. So I'm going to cut this. A little bit longer because you can always shorten it if you need to. And one thing I did was the tacks are actually longer than if I was to just stick it into the side of the box. It didn't matter over there because I put it into two boxes essentially. But over here, it was going to be too long and actually stick through the box. So all I did was take a little piece of leather and stick it on to kind of almost create like a washer type situation to make the tack stick out just a little bit further so it doesn't go through the whole box. So I know because I had my little book in here where I would like the line to go across so it doesn't cover up the words. And it's about 3 inches. So we're going to roughly measure up 3 inches. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just so we know roughly where to put it. And then again, I'm going to run this over. This is a lot easier to do when you're not on camera, actually. All right, so I'm going to run this over, and then we're going to stick. So I'm going to stick our tack into the leather first. Once we have our tack stuck in, then we can actually place it into our box. All right, so I just pushed this all the way in, and it's in there really well now. I'm going to see if I can lift my camera for you to see it. So basically, I just tightened this all the way up, and as you can see, it's in there. It's not moving. And that's going to allow us to put our little potion book in here and not have it flop onto the other items once we get them in here. And with that, I think we have the inside of our box complete. So we're actually going to stop this video here. I wanted this one to be the construction and makeup of the box, and the next one will actually be filling all of the vials, bottles, etc. for the inside contents of our potion box. So there we have the inside. And the outside. So stay tuned for part 2. If you guys like this video, give me the thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, and we will catch you guys later. Thanks so much.